What if you can make $30,000, $50,000, even $150,000 on a self-storage deal? Here's the kicker: without even buying the facility. I'm talking no bank loan, no operating headaches, no having to line up the funding and close on the property, just finding the opportunity, controlling the deal, and getting paid. Now, in this amplifier training video, which is the second of the Cashflow Maps acquisition system, I'm going to show you exactly how wholesaling self-storage facilities works, the 5-step process behind it, and how this strategy can create what I like to call your instant payday. Okay, so let's break it down. What if I told you could make $30,000, $50,000, even $150,000 or more on a self-storage deal? Here's the kicker: without ever buying the facility yourself. That's exactly what I'm going to be talking to you about today in the Instant Payday AMP training video, because just like people wholesale houses and wholesale cars and anything you can imagine, you can also wholesale a self-storage facility. And oftentimes people don't even realize that you can wholesale these storage facilities just like you can anything else. So if you are looking to create cash in the next 60 days to 6 months, this strategy can be a complete game changer for you, because it's the same exact process I've already shown you inside of the Cashflow Maps training system. How to find deals, where we talk about deal discovery, how to analyze them with our deal filter system, how to talk to the owners. The only thing that changes is going to be your exit strategy. Now, let me quickly zoom out and share with you, if you're not familiar with wholesaling, let me just simplify what that means. Wholesaling just means that you find a great deal, you find a great opportunity, you get it under contract, which means now you have equitable interest in that storage facility, you can control the deal, and then you merely assign or sell that contract to another buyer in exchange for a fee. And that fee in self-storage can range from $20,000 all the way up to $100,000 plus. As you're about to hear in just a bit, I have generated $33,000 wholesaling a storage facility. I've generated $25,000. I've generated all the way up to $150,000 wholesaling storage facilities. And I have coaching clients and people inside of our Storage Wins community, I should say, that are wholesaling deals every single quarter. In fact, I have one gentleman in our community that just this year alone has wholesaled 3 storage facilities and is well north of $200,000 in net profits without ever taking ownership, without ever owning these facilities. So the fees can be very, very healthy. And really, you are the bridge essentially between the storage owner and the end buyer. Okay, you create value by doing what most people either don't know how to do or don't want to do, or just don't want to sacrifice the time and energy to do it. And you are sourcing the deal. You're the deal finder, and then you are getting it under contract, controlling the opportunity. And that's why I like to call this the instant payday. Not instant like it happens overnight, but again, within the next 60 days to 6 months, if you commit yourself to follow what you've learned in the Cashflow Maps training system, you can go ahead and decide to wholesale these opportunities and not ultimately be the end buyer. In fact, if you find a really good opportunity, you might even be able to get your wholesale fee and eat your cake at the end of the day too by retaining some equity. That's exactly what I did on one of my storage facilities. I'll walk you through it here. I think what we should do here is, let me just break this down in 5 simple steps. Quick heads up, YouTube gives you the education, but inside the Cashflow Maps membership, you get the implementation. Every single module unlocked, all the spreadsheets, underwriting calculators, templates, scripts, everything neatly organized in one place so that you can actually execute. If you want the full system, instead of having to piece together the videos here on YouTube, click the link in the description, create your free account, and get access right now. Now let's keep going, all right? Because I want you to understand the process at a 30,000 foot view, and then we can dive into the particulars. Step number 1 is sourcing the deal. And you already know how to do this because, again, we talked about this in our deal discovery and our deal flow training modules. You already know how to build your list and how to have meaningful conversations with these mom and pop storage owners. You know how to identify these opportunities that check the boxes. Step 2 is you want to analyze the deal, or what is commonly referred to as underwriting the deal. And you want to run it through our deal filter system to make sure that it makes sense for an end buyer. Now, don't make the mistake a lot of people make, and that is overthinking it. Just confirm that there's value add potential. Okay, and that the numbers make sense for an end buyer. Step number 3 is you want to control the deal and you want to get it under contract. Your LOI, you're probably going to start with a letter of intent, and there's an AMP training video on exactly how to put together a simple 2-page letter of intent, which is non-binding. It's not a legally binding contract. And then eventually you're going to get a purchase and sale agreement or a purchase agreement executed. That is what is going to ultimately give you control. You're not closing yet. You're just buying yourself time and positioning yourself to market the opportunity and find an end buyer. I'm going to talk to you about some best practices, do's and don'ts here towards the end of this video. So stick with me here. Step number 4 is you market the deal. And there are 8 ways that I have experienced finding buyers for a storage deal. And I want to share these with you. Now, number 1 is, here's the great thing, is you've been listening to me, hopefully, and you've been following the cash flow map system. And so hopefully you know that I'm a reliable, trustworthy, incredible buyer. And I not only coach others on how to buy their first or next self-storage facility, but I'm also active in the business. And so number 1 is you have the opportunity to, if and when, or I should say when you get a deal under contract, if you decide to wholesale it, then think of me as your first buyer, because I am actively looking for opportunities. And if for whatever reason the deal doesn't work for me, it could work for somebody in our Storage Wins community, because there is constant deal flow happening within the Storage Wins community. So there should be a link below this video somewhere on this page where I'm just going to ask you some questions, complete the form, and you can send the deal directly to me so that I can evaluate it. We'll review it. We'll see if we're interested in buying it. If we are, we're happy to pay you whatever wholesale fee you're looking for, as long as the deal and the numbers make sense for me or for us. Okay, so step 1 is there's a link somewhere below this video or on this page. In fact, I would encourage you to just bookmark this, so that whenever you come across a self-storage opportunity that you get under contract, that's really, really important. I don't like to work with daisy chains and there's 3 people in the middle of a deal. So this is only going to make sense if you are the one that has the deal directly under contract with the owner. Then you can go ahead and send it to me. Or maybe you're working with a broker or through a broker with the owner, and you need help and you're not sure, and you want to potentially get me involved in the deal, or you want to wholesale it, then you can go ahead. As long as you're direct, you could submit the deal directly to me. Okay, so bookmark that link somewhere below this video or on this page. Number 2 is if you are a part of our Storage Wins coaching community, and I want to encourage you, if you haven't already seen the Freedom Accelerator video that talks about the Storage Wins community, definitely check that out. But we are a community of just awesome people. We're hungry, we're reliable, we are looking for the right opportunities. And so we've had a lot of members just this year already buy deals, wholesale deals to each other. We'll talk about that a little bit here, but you can share it inside of our Storage Wins community, of course, if you're a part of it. If not, just go ahead and refer back to step 1, which is just submit the deal using the form that's on this page. Number 3 is you can post the deal inside of the Storage Wins Facebook group. You should already be a part of the Storage Wins Facebook group. If not, again, there should be a link on this page for you to join that group. It's 100% free, but there are people that every single week share opportunities that they have under contract. It's a great place to network with others, build relationships, and find buyers. Number 4 is I would also encourage you to join other storage Facebook groups. There's a bunch of them out there, so just search inside of Facebook for storage Facebook groups. Now, look, let's be honest, Storage Wins, I might be biased, but I believe it is the best storage Facebook group out there. So make sure you join that one. But yeah, in all seriousness, I would also encourage you to join the other ones because if you get a deal under contract, or I should say when you get a deal under contract, if you decide to wholesale it, you can certainly find a buyer inside of one of these groups. Number 5 is you want to make sure that you're building your buyers list. Just like you're building a prospect list of self-storage mom and pop owners, you also want to do that so that when you find an opportunity that doesn't quite fit your buy box blueprint, or maybe you're looking for it to generate some cash and you want to just wholesale a deal versus taking it on, then you already have an email list. You have a list of ready to go buyers for self-storage opportunities. So here's a pro tip. When you see people in these Facebook groups, when you see people commenting with their email addresses, whenever you see a deal posted or they raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in that deal, send them a message directly and let them know that you come across self-storage wholesale opportunities because you work direct to owner and that you do a lot of marketing, and ask them if they want you to add them to your buyers list. And most of the time they're going to say yes. Make sure to get their name, their mobile number, because you can also text them if they give you permission, and their email address. And now you can start building your email list. That's going to lead us to step number 6. And that is when you get a deal, hopefully you're building your email list every single week. You can send an email to your list. And if you don't yet quite have a list, there are others who have a buyer's list. So that's the magic and beauty of building relationships with people in the Storage Wins community, in the Storage Wins Facebook group, is that you can joint venture with them and say, hey, I have an opportunity. Maybe you've been marketing the opportunity and you haven't been able to find the right buyer. You can joint venture with somebody who has an email list, because an email list is an asset. And if a buyer comes from their list, or if they bring you a buyer, then you can include them in the deal for some type of fair fee split, whatever might make sense. You're gonna have to take that on a case-by-case basis. The 7th way to wholesale one of your deals is to reach out to a storage broker who has active buyers. Now, if they're an active, successful broker, I can tell you they have buyers. There's some brokers that specialize in certain regions or areas. Now, here's what I would suggest. If you're going to go this route, be very transparent with them that you have it under contract and you're looking for a buyer, and that you're not looking to list the facility with a broker, because you are not the owner. You control the deal. I would only recommend you do this if you have a relationship with the broker and you don't think the broker is going to try to go around you to the seller to try to get the listing or anything like that. So this is not one of my favorite ways, but if you've built a meaningful relationship with a broker and the deal can support paying them some type of commission that makes sense, then it's a way to potentially get them involved to bring you a buyer. Just be very transparent with people and let them know, hey, I have this under contract. I think it's a really good deal. Here's why, X, Y, Z. I'm looking for a buyer. Let them, see what they're willing to do. See if they might have a buyer in mind who's been reaching out to them for a deal in that particular area. You just never know until you have the conversation. Number 8, I don't typically go this route, but I'm going to include it anyways, is you can contact the competitors within the 10 to 20 mile radius of that facility to see if they are interested in owning another storage facility in an area where they already own a facility. Now, here is my disclaimer for you. And we're going to talk about this in the do's and don'ts, is I always like to lead with transparency. So if you haven't been transparent with the seller, in other words, if the seller believes that you are the end buyer, not somebody else, then you risk burning a relationship with that seller, because the competition, the competitors, I would say most of the time they know each other, or they know who owns the storage in the area. So if you reach out to a competitor saying, hey, I have this under contract, are you interested in buying it? Don't be surprised if that person contacts your seller. And so if you haven't been transparent, I don't recommend this. I do recommend transparency. I will talk more about that here in a bit in this video. So just an FYI that because they already own storage in the area, they might be interested in taking over that facility. It is a viable way to potentially find the buyer, but it does come with some risks that you should be aware of. Step number 5, and this is getting paid, right? This is what it's all about. Once the buyer closes, then that's where you get paid your assignment fee, or it could be a JV split. And that's your instant payday. It's turning your knowledge and your hustle into real income without having to use a single dollar of your own money, without having to close on the deal, without having to operate it. So let me share with you some real world case studies and examples, because I've done this numerous times. I have Storage Wins coaching clients who have done this numerous times. It's a great way if you're looking to generate a pile of cash within the next 6 months. In fact, when I first got into self-storage, late 2020, this was in the summer of 2021, was the first storage deal I closed. It happened to be a wholesale deal. Now, here's the irony, okay? I built a wholesaling business in the single family space for 14 years and wholesaled north of 750 deals during that time. I shut that down to focus on self-storage because I didn't like the transactional nature of wholesaling. I didn't want to continue building that business. And then the irony is my very first storage deal, I ended up wholesaling it. Why? Because it didn't fit my buy box blueprint. And I actually had the opportunity to work with two friends, one of which found the deal and brought me in because he knew I had experience wholesaling, and another friend of ours ended up joining the deal. And so he ended up finding the buyer. The three of us ended up splitting a $99,000 wholesale fee. So each of us made $33,000 up front. The cool thing is that one of the guys involved in the deal that knew the buyer ended up also negotiating for us to retain 15% equity in that deal. So what did that mean? That meant that each of us made $33,000 at closing, and amongst the three of us, we still own to this day 15% equity and have ownership in that deal. Okay, which depending on, I think based on the revenue that facility is generating, that 15% equity is probably worth anywhere between $40,000 and $80,000. I don't have the exact revenue that it's generating at this moment, but it's probably worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, just that 15% equity. That at some point in the future, whenever that facility gets sold or refinanced, then we'll realize some additional profits on that deal, which happened way back in 2021. And we don't do anything. All we do is get a K1 once a year. We have no management responsibilities, nothing, right? So we got our cake and we got the cherry on top with the equity. So that's deal number one. Another deal I did was, it wasn't your typical standard assignment where I didn't assign the contract, because I got kind of a quick story, but a couple of years ago, I was traveling to Italy. And right before I left to Italy, I got a call from a super nice lady who owned a facility in Louisiana. It was about a 21,000 square foot facility. And she called me and she said, "Hey, Alex, we've never spoken before, but I own this storage facility. You sent me a letter 2 years ago, and I've been holding it because I had the thought of selling it, but the timing wasn't right. And I wanted to know if you were still interested, because I think I'm going to be selling the facility." So she held on to my letter for 2 years because there's some specific things I included in the letter. We have an AMP training called Accelerate and Dominate, where I get into additional ways that you can market for mom and pop storage owner and generate leads. Direct mail is one of those. So I'll talk about that in that AMP training session. But she held on to my letter. Super long story short, I ended up getting that facility under contract for $400,000. Great deal. I gave her exactly what she was looking for, and ended up finding a buyer who's a friend of mine, somebody who I've worked with, who paid $550,000. So I ended up getting $150,000 at closing. But here's where this deal got a little bit interesting, is that the seller had an attorney who would not allow me to assign the contract. So I'm going to share with you what we did based on the guidance and advice of my attorney. I'm not recommending you do this. I am suggesting and recommending that you always consult with an attorney to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Okay, it's too easy to do things the right way to mess around and do them the wrong way. But ultimately what we ended up doing was the attorney set up an entity in that state, and then we closed on it. And on the day of closing, we assigned, essentially we sold 100% of the interest in that entity over to the buyer. So the buyer took over the LLC that bought the facility in exchange for my $150,000 fee. Don't worry about, there's some engineer brains watching me now saying, "Oh, I need to know exactly that." Like, let the attorney, just give them the structure and or mastermind with them. "Hey, here's what I want to accomplish. How can we legally do this?" Where we disclose it. By the way, we disclosed everything to the seller, like everybody knew what was going on, and it was perfectly fine. But consult with your attorney to make sure it's done the right way. Look, we've had numerous examples just this year alone inside of our Storage Wins community. We have one member who has wholesaled 3 storage facilities this year to other Storage Wins community members. And so we have people buying deals, wholesaling deals to each other. One of those members needed 30% down on one of the facilities that she was buying from another Storage Wins member. 2 other Storage Wins community members came in and funded that deal for her. So it's just win-win-wins all the way around here. When you bring the right deal to the right buyer, it can be a game changer for you. So look, now let's talk about how you can do this the right way. The first thing is be transparent with sellers. And a lot of wholesalers will disagree with me. There's a lot of wholesalers, and in fact, years ago when I first got started in wholesaling, I was one of these. I wasn't exactly disclosing to the homeowner that I wasn't going to be the end buyer. If you know you're going to wholesale this and you're not the end buyer, let the seller know, hey, listen, I work with a group of storage buyers and we're actively pursuing opportunities. We each have different goals and objectives. So if you think you might buy it, let them know, like, I may buy this myself, or it could be one of the partners that I work with. Either way, whatever we commit to, once we get past due diligence, we're going to be closing one way or the other. Number two is work with a reputable title company or attorney. Make sure that they know how to close a commercial transaction. Everything gets properly recorded, that you're protected, the seller, the buyer, like everybody. All right. You want to maintain control, and you want to be, by being the point person when it comes to communications. Essentially, you are the bridge between the seller and the buyer. And so you want to communicate clearly with both sides, work with only buyers who operate with integrity and are not going to try to go around you or do anything shady. And that is why I like to interview buyers. And I have a preference, for obvious reasons, working with buyers that I've already built a relationship with. And that's why being a part of the Storage Wins coaching community, being a part of our Facebook group, digging your well before you're thirsty and getting to know people and adding value and contributing. A lot of what we've already talked about in the cash flow map system is so critical and so foundational and important. All right, so when you interview them, have a quick conversation before sharing the details. Set clear expectations. Ask them, is this their first deal? Are they seasoned pros? Find out how they are planning on financing the deal. Do they need to get bank financing? Do they need to get hard money? If they say, oh, I'm buying with cash, confirm cash that you have liquid today. Like, meaning we're not going to close today, but if you could, you have the ability to close today. Because sometimes people say they're going to buy with cash, but what they really mean is they're going to go get some type of financing somewhere. If they're working with a private lender, just find out how they plan on funding the deal. And ask them directly, are you going to be the end buyer, or are you going to try to work with somebody or partner with somebody to get this deal done? You just want to understand who's going to be involved. And essentially, you're grading the ability of this buyer to get the deal done, because what you don't want to do is choose the wrong buyer, assign the contract to them, and then now they eat up your due diligence period. And before the due diligence period expires, they come back to you and say, hey, the deal no longer works for me. Now you're up the creek without a paddle, and either you have to step in and close, or you have to go back and try to renegotiate with your seller, which can be done, but it's not ideal. So make sure that you take the time to interview the buyer before you select one, and feel very confident that they're going to be able to get the deal over the finish line. Okay, I cannot understate how important that is. When it comes to marketing the opportunity and you're ready to promote this, here's what I like to do. And here's what a lot of people inside of our Storage Wins coaching community have done and are doing, is I recommend creating a 5 to 7 minute Loom video that essentially walks through the highlights of the opportunity. Think of this as your movie trailer. You ever jump on YouTube and you're thinking of watching a movie, or you're thinking of jumping into a Netflix show or series? My wife and I have done this before, and we're like, I don't know if I want to watch this or not. So what do? We watch the trailer. The trailer just gives us the highlights of the show or the series or the movie. Same thing with your video. I like to take really, really good photos, like clear photos, clear videos of the facility. If there's anything that's challenging about the deal, if you're a fan of the show Yellowstone, Beth, there's a scene in one of the seasons where Beth is like, where's the rattlesnake in the deal, right? So if the deal has a rattlesnake, if there's something challenging about it, put a spotlight on that bad boy. Like, don't hide it. Shine the spotlight on the big pink elephant in the room. Be transparent with people. Don't pretend that it's all like peaches, rainbows, and unicorns. Show the best of the deal, but also show, hey, here are some of the warts that it might have. And by the way, here, if I was going to be the end buyer, here's what I would do to mitigate against that risk, or here would be my game plan. People will really appreciate when you lead with that honesty and transparency. And by the way, I wasn't planning on mentioning this, but I think it's super important. Be prepared to answer why you aren't the one that's going to be buying and closing on that deal and that opportunity. Because oftentimes I get asked, hey, Alex, if this is such a great deal, why aren't you buying it? And at times, like when I wholesaled that deal where I had it under contract for $400,000 and I wholesaled it for $550,000, that I made $150,000. I had just gotten back from a 3-week trip in Italy. I was in the middle of, I think at the time I owned 3 facilities. I was in the middle of running a mastermind. I was going to be traveling again in a couple of months. Like the timing was just off for me to onboard and take on another facility. It would have been like, look, that deal today I think is worth probably somewhere between 900 and a million. He bought it for 550,000. I would have been buying it for 400,000. So it would have been an amazing deal. In hindsight, I probably should have closed on it, but I was happy with the 150 grand that I made at that point. Didn't have to really do any work. And that came because I had a relationship with the buyer. I trusted him. I knew his ability to close. I knew he wasn't going to go around me. And so I think that's really, really important that you build those relationships, but then that you build a very clean marketing package. Have everything organized in, I like to use Google Drive or Dropbox. It has the address, the wholesale price, or any key terms that might come along with the deal, a short market overview, competition study, my underwriting and competitor analysis, professional photos and videos. That's super important. If there are any market studies like the supply and demand reports and demographics, all that type of stuff. Make it as easy as possible for buyers to understand the opportunity and want to work with you. If they have to come back to you for information and it's this back and forth, you're probably not doing a good enough job of like creating a package and giving them all the information they need. One of the things that kind of drives me wild is when people post in a storage group in Facebook, like, hey, I have the self-storage deal, 600,000, who's interested or something, like just vague, no information. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Protect yourself, obviously. Make sure that if you know you're going to wholesale it, you try to give yourself enough of a due diligence window. Make sure that your paperwork is buttoned up and dialed in. We talked about building relationships. I don't want to continue to beat that horse, but it's like the fabric, it's in the DNA, in the fabric of this entire training and everything we do. And then don't chase perfection, chase progress. Okay. The first wholesale deal, I would probably say is going to be your toughest because you just don't know. But this is why hopefully you have the right guidance, coaching, mentoring, support. You're involved in a community like Storage Wins to be able to answer your questions and help get you over the finish line. I mean, it could be a complete game changer for you. So look, in summary here, as we're going to wrap, if you've got a potential deal, and when I say potential deal, a deal that you have directly under contract, I want to be crystal clear about that. Submit it, click the link below, submit it to me. That way I can evaluate the deal. If it's not for me, trust me, we probably have a buyer for it, provided that it's a deal. And if the deal checks out, we'll close on it. I'm happy to pay you whatever the wholesale fee is, as long as it's a deal for us. I never count somebody else's money. I want you to do very, very well. I mean, you did the hard work of finding the opportunity, getting it under contract. So you bring the deal, we'll bring the capital and or the buyers. We both win, seller wins. So look, next steps is go back through the cash flow maps training, brush up on any areas that you're just not clear, but this is about massive imperfect action. Use what you've already learned to find deals and qualify deals, make offers via the offer accelerator, AKA our letter of intent. And once you find something that looks promising, don't wait. Get it under contract, submit it, reach out to us. Start the conversation. Use the 8 ways that I just shared with you on how you can find the right buyer. Make sure you're building your email list. And the fastest way to build confidence, proof, and generate cash in this business is be a really, really good deal finder. That's why I want you to really focus on those modules, deal discovery, and how you can get deal flow going. If you get really, really good at finding deals and locating these opportunities, then that can be your instant payday. So here's the punchline. If you can become really good at finding storage deals, you'll never run out of opportunities to make money in this business. And sometimes you'll buy the facility yourself. And sometimes when the deal doesn't fit your buy box blueprint, then you'll just want to create cash quickly, and you can wholesale the opportunity and create what we just talked about, which is your instant payday. That is the power of becoming a deal finder, knowing where to find the deals, how to control the opportunity, and then determine what you want to do with it. But if you want access to the full framework, all the tools and resources that can help you find, analyze, and control these deals, go ahead and click the link in the description below. Create your free account to access the entire Cashflow Maps acquisition system. Inside, you're going to find all the training, the templates, the tools that walk you through this process step by step. And in the next amplifier training session, we're going to go deeper into another powerful strategy that can help you accelerate your deal flow and scale faster in the self-storage business. I look forward to connecting with you on the next video.